If you're looking for a decent venue to put on a production, this is the place to come to in Hampshire.
There's 1,000,001 different things that you can do with a venue as large and interesting as this.
Okay, and I'm going to let go now.
And if you want to go on stage, great. But there's lots and lots of other things that you could be involved in.
Virtually every week there's some form of entertainment in this building.
As you enter the town of Romsey from the south, the Plaza Theatre dominates the skyline. For over 30 years, this building has been home to local amateur dramatic society R.A.O.D.S, owned and operated entirely by its members.
The Plaza Theatre was built in 1931 in the Art Deco style as a cinema and went through a very good period between the 30s into the 50s and the 60s, and in the late 60s it started to lose its audience as television came in, and by the 70s it was heading in a downward spiral, became a bingo hall, and then eventually it was closed and left as a derelict almost.
That coincided with R.A.O.D.S looking for a new space, so they put in a bid for the Plaza and we acquired it in 1982.
R.A.O.D.S, who had been using the Crossfield Hall as their stage, and all their workshops facilities were up at Woodley, were given notice at Woodley that we would have to leave, and we started to look around for a building that would be permanent for us. And eventually, after a lot of negotiation, we were told that if we could raise the £72,000 in a week, or mortgage that in a week, we could get the Plaza.
And converted it by building, in effect, a tier of seating from where the stalls had been through to the circle, and using the space underneath that new tier to build a green room.
The membership at the time soared to something like about 400, but there must have been about 150, 200 people actually working here at one time and raising money. If they weren't working, they were out raising money. Everything from coffee mornings to giant jumble sales and that sort of stuff. Virtually everything was done other than the major construction was done by the membership.
So we acquired it in 1982 and we opened in January 84. During that time, so midway through the changes, they did do a variety show just to try and help generate some funds. But the first proper show wasn't until January 1984, which was Jack and the Beanstalk.
Since that first show back in 1984 in the newly converted Plaza Theatre, R.A.O.D.S have gone on to produce close to 300 shows, and in recent years, as many as 12 productions a year. As for the society itself, their history can be traced back much further.
Only 12 members actually formed the society. They had a meeting in the White Horse pub in Romsey because they were really keen to put on a G&S. They actually met on the 11th of October in 1934, and it was in the February 1935 they actually put the first show on in the town hall in Romsey.
At which a gent called Mr. Crossfield attended, loved the show, hated the drafty town hall, so he built what became the Crossfield Hall specifically for us. And that was opened with our second performance, which was the Pirates of Penzance.
And this really set them on the path of being very much an operatic society. They were very keen on that. They weren't really into drama at that time. They really wanted to home in on G&S. And the only snag with it was, even at that time, it was very expensive to put on. You needed a big orchestra. The doily cart royalties were quite inhibitive.
Costumes and scenery, because the scenery was hired in at that stage, and that was leading the funds to be somewhat depleted.
In 1952, I think it was, they decided to put a pantomime on. And from then on, there was no looking back. The pantomime was very successful and helped them to finance plays, musicals, all the rest of it that we've been doing ever since.
R.A.O.D.S continued to perform over 100 shows on the Crossfield Hall stage, up until the move to their new home. And as the membership grew, so too did the amount of shows they could now stage.
When we came into the Plaza, I think we were turning out about 5 or 6 shows a year. And over the years, the number has increased.
We now do a show a month. We've done as many as 14 in a year, bearing in mind that for a long period of time, there was a standard of 7 shows a year.
It's very important to achieve the correct balance, both from the point of view of our audience members, but also the members of the theatre here. We have about 100 active acting members, all of whom prefer to do certain things. We have some people who like comedy, others who like the drama, we have Shakespeareans. So we need to make sure that we're satisfying the needs of all those people, as well as attracting the audiences that we need to attract to keep on making enough money to run the theatre.
Our standard format is a panto, 2 adult musicals, a youth musical, 4 straight plays, on all of that on the main stage. Those straight plays are comedies or dramas. In addition, 1 outdoor and 3 green room shows a year.
The Plaza Green Room, beneath the main stage, now serves 2 main functions, primarily as a cafe bar during shows in the main auditorium, and in recent years can be transformed into a small studio theatre.
The studio place does give us an opportunity to do the kind of plays we really couldn't do if we just had the main theatre. For example, God of Carnage we've just done. We filled every night with a room full of 50 people, and it really did feel full. There was a great atmosphere. If we'd done the same play in the main auditorium, those 50 people would have been rattling around the auditorium, and it wouldn't have felt the same. And the advantage as well of the studio is that it's basically a bare room that we can stage in any way we like. For this production, we actually did it in the round. We had the actors in the middle, very little in the way of furniture or props. In fact, in this case, we just have 1 coffee table and 4 white chairs, and the audience were arranged around it. But for other productions, we've had the stage at one end of the space, we've had the stage down the side. We can do it any way we like. It's very adaptable.
Some socks don't fit me.
Now, from the actor's point of view, it creates a whole different challenge than acting on our main stage. As a matter of fact, it's far more like movie acting, where even the slightest expression is noticeable by the audience. So you really have to tone down your acting style and make it a lot more naturalistic.
The challenges of the green room are a lot. It's a lot smaller, it's a lot intimate space. It means that they really have to not be quite so big. You're really taught in drama to be as big as you possibly can so that everyone can see, but in the green room it's just too much. So it's bringing that down, and it's also, there's a lot of seating issues and visual issues that you just have to work around, and it's really important for them. It gives them the opportunity to learn about how to block a show, and they've had so much fun and we've had so much fun.
What are you doing here?
I live here. Mr. Craven's my uncle.
Your brother is alive.
With such a large programme each year, it's important to choose the right selection of shows. The ultimate responsibility for that lies with the artistic director and a small group of members elected onto the forward planning team.
So I have a committee. This year we had a dozen people, including myself, on the committee. We read as many plays as we can. We have members putting forward ideas, some of whom would like to direct the plays they've selected. And we read them. Obviously, we don't have time for everyone to read everything, so what we'll do is we'll give perhaps 2 or 3 people a play to read. If they like it, then we'll pass it on to the rest of the group. And then often, we'll sit down together and it comes down to a show of hands on particular choices between one play versus another.
A regular addition to the R.A.O.D.S calendar is the annual outdoor production, and a chance for actors of all ages to perform in spectacular surroundings.
In dirty sandpits.
Maybe I could read to you.
For both cast and crew, however, working in the open air does bring with it a host of challenges.
Thanks very much.
Well, there's the weather, which is obviously England in June, it's so unpredictable. So we've had setting the lights in pouring rain, it can be cold. Things like when you're in the theatre, you can stop a scene with a blackout and then change the set in pitch darkness. You don't get that, of course. Yeah, that's probably the main challenges.
What's the weather forecast for the rest of the week?
Changeable.
In addition, once every third year, we're lucky enough to be invited to the Minack Theatre in Cornwall, which is good for the funds and is a great opportunity for members, both acting and directors and technicians. It's a fantastic place.
Show Week is a busy time at the Plaza, and a chance for members to be involved in the variety of jobs needed during a run. From front of house to backstage, there's always plenty to do. With so much activity throughout the year, the need for new members is greater than ever.
We always need new people because people move away, stop doing things. You need new people coming in all the time. There's 1,000,001 different things that you can do with a venue as large and interesting as this. And if you want to go on stage, great. But there's lots and lots of other things that you could be involved in.
We ready? Okay.
Nice.
Just join in the whole aura of running a theatre, because this theatre is a terrific asset for R.A.O.D.S, but it is also our biggest liability because we've got to keep it running on a professional standard without being paid for it.
Youth membership forms an important part of the Society's yearly programming, and many believe it to be a vital part of the future success of R.A.O.D.S.
The youth side to R.A.O.D.S is vitally important. Without the youth, we would just be a much poorer place. The youth bring vibrancy and a future to amateur theatre. So we're lucky that the committee take the youth side of our work here at the Plaza completely seriously and really enjoy having them.
I think the youth side of R.A.O.D.S is incredibly important. It's really important to be able to nurture that youth and be able to give them the opportunities to do plays, to do musicals, to do straight drama, to do comedies. How else are they going to learn how to do shows outside of school other than to give them the opportunity here? So it's something that we should definitely nurture and do as much as we possibly can in.
Everyone, hands on heads, fingers on lips.
Youth members are given the chance to perform in a variety of productions each year on both the main stage and the Green Room studio.
Mr. Nixon, and as you teach drama...
Whilst they are youth members, they do a full youth musical in the summer, which generates income. There's also a turnover of their parents and relatives and so on, who are useful members to the society. And in addition, it brings in a wider base of people who are interested in the Plaza in the town.
We can't be friends. We can.
In addition to the regular youth shows, they also have the opportunity to work alongside adult members during the year, as increasingly shows are selected which offer parts for a wider range of age groups.
Don't you let her dock you for the 4 you went to...
I am Georgette Ellison and I am the Plaza Youth Liaison Officer, which kind of means that I look after anyone who's under 18 and I make sure that we're compliant with all the rules of the council, so all the paperwork's completed. And I look after their welfare, make sure they're chaperones, and that when they're in the building, that they're safe and happy and enjoying themselves.
Being part of a theatre group is very good training for presentation and speaking in public, this kind of thing. Join a theatre because it's the best training ground you'll ever get. And new members, of course, bring new life into the society, and who knows what talent we can bring out of them. There have been a lot of people I've known over the years who've come on, been very shy, or I don't particularly want to do this or that or the other, and have been a shining light by the time we've worked on them for a few years. People can often be very surprising, even to themselves.